The financial system is complex and it's convoluted. It is designed to keep you from understanding the truth. And why is it this way? Because it was built like that. If you read The Creature from Jekyll Island, you're going to know some of the parts and the pieces of this puzzle. If you look at what happened back in 1929 and what led up into the 30s, you're going to get another piece of the puzzle. If you look back, even further back at the development of the financial system as it is today, you're going to get more pieces of the puzzle. And all of that will explain what we are seeing today. The most recent example of that puzzle is highlighted by Frank Partnoy in his book, Infectious Greed, who I have talked about many times before. I believe the link is in the description of this video, but regardless, you see it over and over and over again. They enrich themselves and they keep it from ever ending up in the hands of you and I. Right now, today, as I talked about with Italy, it happened with Spain. The assets of the people are being sold off for pennies on the dollar. You might think it's okay. You might not realize the depth of this, but understand that what we are seeing right now is definitely worrisome. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. This was some information that I had from this previous video I recorded. It went on way too long, so I wanted to include it right here because the data is too important. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you find it informative. Let's get into it right away. Bailey says the Bank of England hasn't yet reached a judgment on negative rates. The solutions that they provide people are always going to be in the benefit of everyone else but the middle class. Negative interest rates do not work. They do not provide the people with any sort of benefit, and yet they're trying to do this on a global level. I've got another article to show you in a second, I believe, but the point here is that the Bank of England, although they haven't decided yet, they might be doing what their peers have done, even though it has been very clear that the benefits, they're not there. This is a report directly from the Federal Reserve, and it looks into the negative interest rate policies. It's talking about Europe and essentially suggesting this isn't good. Profitability suffers, and it's a mistake. We have heard many times before that the Federal Reserve has no intention on going into the negative. We did have Janet Yellen previously, before she actually became chair, say that if she thought it would be a good thing, she would vote for negative interest rates. But that never happened, at least in real terms. I don't know if they will go into the negative, but they want to print the heck out of that currency, I could tell you right now. They're demanding that inflation goes higher and higher and higher, just like they say so in Europe. And the question I have every time I see this, the question I have is, if your policies do not create enough inflation, and at the same time, printing the money that you have done doesn't have any negative consequences, why not print significantly more? So let's say the Federal Reserve's balance sheet at $7 trillion has had no impact on the inflation. Job growth has been okay. Why not make it 14 trillion? Why not make it 50 trillion? And I'm serious. I'm asking this question. Why not print significantly more money? Why not go to 100 trillion? Why not go to a quadrillion? And of course, we know that every dollar printed into the system dilutes the rest. And that to me is very clear. If you simply take the extreme example, it would be so obvious. German inflation further below zero bolsters stimulus case. Yes, another country wants to do stimulus. I know you're very surprised by now. You can see the chart here at the bottom. Below zero, German inflation rate falls to the lowest in more than 5 years. This right here is zero, and it has essentially crept below that level. It isn't a good sign when we see this happening to not just one country or two or three, but we're having a deflation in the official numbers, yet the actual prices that people pay for their everyday items are going in the exact opposite direction. Do you see a problem with that? A little bit of nonsense for you, but a connected article. Germany says EU's massive stimulus package is at risk of stalling. It's just nonsense at this point, honestly. I see these articles and I know that a lot of people get into this debate. Oh, these politicians can't agree. Oh, it's these politicians. Oh, they're the problem. And it goes on in every single country. And yet behind the scenes, everybody's shaking hands. Everybody's laughing it all up. This article out of the Wall Street Journal is talking about gold. And the one point that I wanted to make from here is simply that previously investors would look to bonds as a way to preserve their wealth, take some of the risk off the table instead of being entirely in equities. But gold is becoming more attractive specifically because the yield on these bonds are close to zero or below. For an investor, many would look at gold and say, well, I'm not getting a return from it, so there's no point. But today, things have changed so wildly from previous cycles that a negative return is becoming more common. The last time I checked, I think we were over $16 trillion in negative yielding bonds. So let's see where this goes. Policymakers should have the freedom to lift rates. That's according to the Dallas Fed President Kaplan. All he was saying here, and this is funny because they all want to print money. They all want low interest rates. He said that himself. All he wants was a little bit more freedom to say, if we want to raise interest rates at some point, we should be doing that. All he's trying to say is that we need to judge the situation as it happens. And that's considered dissent. What a world this has become. The financial system is rotten. There's two things here that are part of the same information, different sources, but people will not like what I have to say, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. Talking about Queen of England, to receive government bailout, and understand that there's a quote around that because it's coming with some fine print, to top up income after Crown Estate hit by economic slump. This royal bailout will be tough to stomach for people who love the Queen but have lost their jobs. The royal family takes in rental receipts from shops in London's Regent Street alongside malls and retail parks around the country, but the value of its portfolio has fallen by more than $500 million since earlier this year. The Treasury said it would provide the estate with extra money to meet any shortfall in profits and to make sure the Queen's sovereign grant remains at its current level. Remember, everybody that's paying into that sovereign grant. To be at the top of this pyramid, at least the visible pyramid that we can see, to be there and to tell everyone from the bottom, you've got to pay up. You have got to put more money into my pocket so that I could sit there wearing a crown worth $1 million on a golden throne. We'll host parades that you will pay for, and I'll sit there and wave to you as I come around, knowing that there are clearly haves and have-nots. Britain's coming commercial property slump. It will hit pensioners, foreigners, and the Queen. Among the assets that adorn the Queen's property portfolio are 17 provincial shopping and leisure centers. They wrote down the value of the portfolio by 17%, cutting Her Majesty's net worth by $700 million, set against the $13.4 billion valuation of her entire property portfolio. The Queen's got a lot of money. The Queen doesn't need a bailout, but the Queen will get her bailout because that's the way this system works. The system feeds off of you and I. And every day that you support the system, you fuel it. And yet the masses simply do not understand. That's all for this video. If you found it informative, hit that thumbs up button. When you do, you are supporting me. I want to thank you for that. If you want to learn how to sell stuff online, you can do so at the AmazonGPS.com for free. The financial system, it's complex, it's convoluted, and there's so much that people need to understand to actually have an advantage here. You can learn everything in these two books. They're available at the link in the description. If you want the audiobook, themoneygps.com. Hold on, have you seen this video? Definitely want to check it out if you haven't already. Click on it, I'll see you there.